Welcome to Setting the Stage. I'm Brooke Savage. The annual Uptown Art Expo is coming to Altamont Springs, and Taylor Dayne will be there. You've probably heard of her. She's joining us today to tell us all about her upcoming performance. Taylor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
So, the first question I always like to ask is, how did you get into singing and performing?
How did I get into it? Well, I mean, firstly, it's the radio and the music. I was a very young child, and I grew up in New York, and the radio is influential. I grew up in an apartment building, so music was wafting from one apartment to the next, and through. And it was the '70s, and it was WABC radio, and everything was on from Bill Withers to Karen Carpenter to Al Green to Marvin Gaye, you know, even Aerosmith, right? Dream On came out in '72. So how I got into it was I fell in love with all the voices and all the magic that I heard coming through that little transistor radio box and from my neighbors' apartments. And I started to imitate, the singers that I was hearing, Stevie Wonder especially. I was just like, wow.
Well, I love that. And tell us about how your rise to fame, because you became a big hit during a time when there was no social media. So, how did you make that happen?
Well, it was just as the old story is, you got to get a record deal. You got to get noticed by a record company. You have to, you know, I there was no yellow brick road, so to speak. There's not like you can directly market other than going out and playing in clubs. So I played in a lot of clubs in New York. I worked with numerous bands, and then I ultimately took more control and I just said, I'm going to produce my own record, which was a single, and I'm going to go for the mix shows. And that means usually that 12 o'clock midnight show where something might cross over and radio might pick it up and fans might push it and push the DJs and the radio stations to play it. And that was Tell It to My Heart. And we went to an independent promoter. We recorded the record. That was my third single that I had recorded at that time. We called them 12 inches then. That's what vinyl looked like. And you had radio stations like 92 KTU in New York, and you had Kiss FM that broke, and they would turn it on their midnight, mix stations. And that was essentially how it broke, but it broke in Europe. And very soon after, Arista picked up the single, and the rest is kind of history. It just blew up, went number one everywhere. It was just a single.
And I'm assuming you were not, like, were you expecting that, or were you shocked, I guess?
Well, I had put out, you can never expect that
Yeah.
kind of wait. You don't expect that kind of wave of stardom. You have a dream. I was a kid, I was 21 and 22, and I'd worked diligently. I mean, I grew up in New York, so we were in clubs. I was working. I was in multiple bands and writing and really honing in that 10,000 hours, that outlier. Putting in the time and more than that, the hours, and really um, mastering my craft and my um, direction, and the choices got. I didn't want to be part of a band anymore. I knew I wanted to be a solo artist. I knew, you just really improve upon that if that's the experience, and you fight through a lot of muck. And if you get seen by a label, and that was those days, that's what you're talking about, and a label picks you up, that was really the machine at work.
Wow, that is incredible. And then after your hit came out, what did it mean for you to be able to open up for Michael Jackson?
It sounds surreal now because it sounds like, it was another time. But if you remember, in the '80s, and, Michael Jackson basically taught us what being a pop star, showed us the path of superstardom, of arena shows, of stadiums. He was playing, and the sales of, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million album, record sales. It was nothing short of phenomenon. And to then have a single break, but not a regular, like my single, Tell It to My Heart, took over, was number one in every country in Europe. And that's really, he was on the Bad tour, and he had a couple of artists opening up for him during this time. And I was asked to do that. And I just think, I remember getting the call from management, and, I was on my second single in the States, which was Prove Your Love, and going on my third in the UK and throughout Europe, and that was Lovely, excuse me, I'll Always Love You. And it was like being a gladiator. Like suddenly you're just there you are in the stadium, and with the greatest artist in the world, and who you've admired for a million years, and the roar of the lions.
Exactly. I mean, it's a big deal. Tell us about, how you also wrote for Tina Turner.
Well, I wrote for Taylor Dayne.
I know. Well,
And
yeah,
with
that's
my record
impressive in
company,
itself. Yes.
yes, I wrote for myself, and for getting on my own records. And what transpired is my record company just passed on a song that I thought was really great, which was, I wrote "I'll Wait." You'll know that from Sound, Soul Dancing album. And I wrote during that time, I think it was like 94, 95, 96, around there. I went in the studio with Arthur Baker, who was instrumental in crossing over like more pop records into the dance, I guess, like taking like a Stone song. And all I can say is that we wrote Whatever You Want. And when Trevor Horn and Tina got their hands on it, my label didn't believe in the song. They didn't love it. And I knew it was a crazy song. And when Tina turned it, she made it such a smash throughout Europe. She opened her Tina, I forget what tour that was, but she opened her tour with it. And yeah, it became a smash record. And that was Whatever You Want. Whatever you want me to do. Yeah.
I love that. And your career has been spanning more than 3 decades. Tell us about the work that goes into, keeping that going.
Oh, goodness. It's constantly changing and shifting. Just as you said, I went from 12 inches to cassettes to CDs to streaming. And, as a music selling artist, as one of the top music selling female artists of all time, like when you really get into that part of it, music has changed just in the way, just sound, how we deliver everything. The music, TV, film. We stream things now. But again, I was used to taking things. It's like nobody is going to hand you anything. You have to create things. You have to make things. Like if you don't see, if you're going to sit there and audition the rest of your life for a part, it's going to become a tough road. I think there are breaks, there are lucky breaks, but I think at the same time, preparation and that whole idea of being prepared and ready and is really where it's at. Because again, I was coming out of high school and I was already working, making records, but like again, 12 inches. And I was preparing myself to release my own music by myself through my record company, through a smaller independent label, which myself and my partner, which was Rick Wake. And, the rest is kind of history. We kind of wrote it for ourselves then. And because we believed in ourselves and we put our money behind it. And, yeah.
I love that. And, how would you spoke a little bit about change. How would you say your music has evolved?
Well, as you evolve as a human being and experience, when I write now versus not versus then, like I remember going in the studio to write "I'll Wait" or "Whatever You Want." I mean, I was living in that. That's where you are at that time, and you're working with the producers and the writers and collaborating with the people that at that time, were at the top of their game. Um, Still the same for me, except now it's so much, it's so different. It's not like I'm competing on charts to be in a number one position or, top. I have classic records. I have hit songs that are iconic, that have kind of transcended through 30 years now. And that's where the beauty is for me. And I get to say I'm in this game, and more than I'm in the game, I just keep re-looking at it and reevaluating it and seeing where the joy comes for me as an artist and where I can be creative. And like for instance, this Capital sessions with Lose You to Love Me and Thinking Out Loud, and um, getting that impetus of the idea of when I did Mass Singer and really taking on the covering other people's music, but really interpreting it in my own way, which as a singer I always did, but this was really a deeper project, working with one of the greats, Greg Field, 9-time Grammy recipient, and just really stripping things down and taking that time to explore my instrument.
That makes sense. What is your favorite song to perform?
Well, I mean, it's a combination between your fans who you watch and you feed off of. Every show is different. They're like, well, what does it feel like to sing, to sing a song that you've done for 30 years? And I go, but every night's different. Every show's different. Every experience is different. My favorites are definitely I'll Be Your Shelter, Shelter, Love Will Lead You Back, Tell It to My Heart. Sometimes Can't Get Enough of Your Love. Depends on the night. I'll Always Love You. It's just, they're fun.
I love it.
And
And
right
those
now I'm
are
on tour, so like we're really in the thick of it. So it's been the there's 3 decades of people in the audience. Some of the children, some girls, guys are named Taylor. They're because their mom turned their parents, their sisters turned them on to my music. Their brothers. You know how you were when you were a kid. You took your siblings' music, or you listened to it somehow. However you heard it was in school, on the radio, in the club. I mean, most of the time when I hear people, when they start with "Tell It to My Heart," it's because they all were, if they were born in the 80s, it's like they were either in the club, in the car, and in junior high, or their sister turned them on to it, their brother. You know how it is with music, how you share music. Now music is shared on playlists, but at the same time, yeah.
Yes, I
What do you
definitely
think?
agree. My siblings definitely have influenced a lot of my music taste.
Oh,
That is for
totally. Mine
sure.
too. Like, yeah, I was like, oh my God. And I grew up in apartment buildings, so you could hear music wafting in from other people's apartments and buildings and rooms, and you're like, oh my God, what are they listening to? And like, who's on the radio right now? And like, I need that. I need to hear that. I need to hear that song.
Yeah, I completely agree. And so you mentioned being on tour. What is that like the day-to-day life of being on tour? And do you get breaks to see your family?
Well, to see my family, my children are 22 years old. My family is around the world now. I have what I love about um, being an artist is I have family. I'm in I have a beautiful. I'm here in Florida right now, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. I have family here. My parents are still alive and are still blessed to be here. My Los Angeles, my LA, my children are still in California. I live in California, and I have family now throughout the world. I've built relationships with people and fans, and of course that's part of the joy of the travel. I get to go to, in one month, my goodness, I'm in Pittsburgh, Philly, um, New Jersey, Boston, St. Bart's, uh, Clearwater, Cali. You get where I'm going? Like, pretty
Yeah.
exciting lifestyle. It can be enormously draining, but I see so many things, and I have cornerstones. I have people, I have places, and I have called many places home now. Between Boston, to, certain cities, St. Bart's. Having friends and family, and I really um, have grown into this lifestyle and really understand it. It's not for everybody, and certainly there are rough days. Travel, and it takes a lot of energy, and my job is to take care of myself and sustain that, because I want to bring that to the stage. That's what touring is to me. It's the energy and the transmission of this energy and vibration together with my audience. And obviously the music is everything. So But when you do it at a level where you're energized and you have the strength, and that's what it's about.
That is a
Enjoying it, loving it.
beautiful. Oh, I love that. That's a beautiful way to look at it. So when you come to Altamont Springs next week, will you be seeing any family while you're in Florida?
Oh, family comes, but it's not my parents, because they're down here, and I have other shows coming up, and I'll be playing in Fort Lauderdale. I'm playing in Broward. I have a show with Sheena Easton and I believe Tiffany. Like, couple. I'm on tour, so they won't make it to that one. They're a little bit, that ride's not the same. But yeah, I have other friends that are in Orlando and Tampa. They'll make the Clearwater, the Alamont. They will be there. I know I got so ripped apart for Alamonte. I was like, what's the E for? I didn't know. Alamont, right?
Altamont
But
Springs.
the venue sounds really exciting. I mean, it's out there in the middle. It sounds really like a beautiful place to play, and it'll be a lot of fun. And yeah. Amazing.
Yes, I love that park, and I'm actually from South Florida, so I definitely understand not wanting to do that a 3 to 4 hour drive.
Yeah, no, they get Florida's big, but I mean, no, yeah, it's amazing. So yes, I will be there, and yeah, it'll be great, really great. And I have good friends in Orlando, and, Tampa. Yeah. So that's my family. Yeah,
I love
family
it.
everywhere.
Well, I hope
Built that over the years. That's a great part of it.
Yes. Well, I hope it's okay with you. I want to shift gears a little bit. I know the past few years you've been very vocal about your battle with colon cancer. What inspired you to share your story?
Well, it's quite a private thing when you're going. It wasn't a thought process. I think what was finally happening as I was, 3, 4 months, I was literally going through my own healing, and a lot of challenges and surgery and recovery and infections. And I think when I first had a chance to speak about it and get back, I fought hard to get back to normalcy in my life, but at the same time, I couldn't ignore the transition in my life, and the transition into my experience had to be shared, because I'm a different person completely. And that, I think, was moving people. And I didn't want to lead with that, but it just turned into, when people hear your story like that, and so many people have their own experience with cancer, but more than that, every person has a journey, and we're here challenged, daily in all different ways, but so many people could relate to it. And at the same time, I just shared my personal journey, and mine was, early detection, what saved my life. I was very honest about it, I guess. And more than that, it just, my vulnerability, I felt, which people hadn't often seen, just about saying, what saved my life was A, B, and C. And if you can do this for yourself, get your yearly mammograms, push yourself. Being a warrior for yourself is really put that mask on first. You must take care of yourself. You must love yourself enough to go in for those annuals. And getting colonoscopies was part of my now annual program, and so saved my life.
Wow. And so what does it mean to you to, be able to be back on tour after, dealing with all that?
Well, I fought hard to be here. I want to be here, and I have something to say, and I have more to do. It's shown me I'm more in service now than anything. And when my fans are in the audience, it means more. It's meant more to me, because I take it so personally. So it's such a shared experience. It's such a reciprocity of they give, my giving, my receiving that love, and them understanding how much I want to be there with them. And it's there's no guarantees in life, so you know, I fought a battle and I won, and I want people to know that they can too.
I love that. That's so inspiring. Okay, so I have a random question, kind of like a funny question, if you don't mind. I was just curious, how has Tig Notaro's comedy bit impacted your life? Are people coming up to you randomly telling you they like your voice? What's going on with that?
Oh, well, when it first started, I mean, this has been going on for quite a time. You know, Tig is just such a genius, a master comedian. Um, the comments, hey, I love your voice. I just love, you know, and well, then I'll come back and I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, what voice? Which one? My speaking voice, my singing voice. I mean, she turned it into such a you know, a funny, you know, shtick, whatever. But yeah, not all the time. I mean, but yeah, when it first broke, and obviously when she did her HBO special, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was fun.
Yes, a lot of people
And
love
she
that
ain't wrong.
comedy
She's
bit.
not lying. There were moments where she probably walked up to me, you know, over the last when that first was happening, and she'd meet me out there and probably say, "Hey, man, I love your voice," and I'd be like, "Oh, cool. Depends how many martinis I had." Oh, really? What voice? Who are we talking about? Like maybe I was like playing like I don't know who you're talking about. Like what? Who? Oh, aren't you Taylor Dayne? Yeah, oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, her
Is there
dryness, like the way she delivers it is so funny because it's probably like, yeah, she probably walked up and was just like a fan, you know? And I probably was like, oh, cool. Which voice? Who?
Wow. Well, is there anything else you want to bring up for your fans coming to your show in Altamont Springs?
No, I can't wait to see you. You know, it's going to be a great run up there. I heard the venue's beautiful. I look forward to seeing you all. I get to travel out to this little island I heard, and everybody, you kind of like, that's how it's the performances. It sounds neat. It sounds pretty cool.
Yes, it's a beautiful park. Again, Uptown.
Yeah.
Our expo will be at Cranes Roost Park. Taylor Dayne will be there on Friday. Taylor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you, darling.